The Daily Code Snippet. Continuing with Web Access Pro to adjust our site for accessibility errors, we work on applying our navigation fix to all other pages and other quick fixes. We review how we fixed our code to add ARIA labels and ARIA landmarks. So here we are in our code again, and we're just going to do a quick review of what we're looking at. And so we're looking at our adjusted code. So in the head, you still have your scripts. And, we were unable to really change the duplicate IDs that were a problem for the Web Access Pro, because the JavaScript would break down if we tried to change the hashtag for an ID to a period, which is for a class attribute. So we're just going to keep that as is. And now we're in our navigation where we went ahead and added ARIA labels to all of our links so that a screen reader or an assistive device can present to the user where they are going if they hit that link. And so it makes it more clear to them what the function is for each link or button in our navigation. Now we move on to section 1. We still have our OWL slider to fix. We have to go into the OWL code in order to fix that. And then we're back in our the images for each thumbnail. Again, we continue to use the ID attributes because trying to change it to a class attribute resulted in a breakdown of the JavaScript we were using for this interactive function, where when you hover on each work, that the thumbnail of the project image will be shown on desktop. Now, we will still have to go back through all of these links in this second section and add ARIA labels, again, to be more explicit to the user where this link is taking them. So each of these pages is taking the user to a work project page. So we just have to add an ARIA label to our link that will tell them that. And what you also have in this section is code that tells the browser how to present this data if it is instead a mobile screen. So there's both a desktop version and a mobile version. And that triggers depending on the width of the browser that the person is using. So moving forward to our client section, we have already added our ARIA labels here to indicate to the user where the link is taking them. And similarly, we have added ARIA labels to section 4, which is the contact information. And then finally, we have our remaining JavaScripts that deal with our Google Analytics and our randomizer for our slider. So now we have to adjust the navigation for each of our client pages, because not only have we fixed it on the index page, we have to fix it on our client page. But one of the things that we noted from our Web Access Pro was that the language was not declared on each of our client pages. So that's something we have to fix, and we'll deal with that first because that's an easy fix. So here we're declaring that the language is English on a client page. And we're also changing the viewport meta code that says that the person can scale as they wish on mobile. So here's the part that has to do with navigation. And so we're just going to do is we're going to copy the navigation from our index page that we've already adjusted with our ARIA labels and put it into our client page. So we haven't gone through unminifying our client pages, so that's why it's a little harder to see where we need to go. But you can always see the navigation is in our header, so that's a helpful landmark to denote where our navigation is on our page. And now we can go ahead and grab the code that we want to transfer to our client pages. One thing to note is the difference between the client pages and the index page is the fact that instead of going to index.html, we are going to /index.html. And that's because the client pages are all in a folder called clients, and this is just for more organization. But that does mean that we also, in addition to copying the code, we need to correct the code on the client pages to make it go to the right page. And so if we were to keep this code as is, then the navigation wouldn't work, because it's going to send people to the index.html, which is not at the same level as the client pages, because the client pages are inside a folder. So what we need to tell the browser to do is to go outside the folder to find the index.html file. And in order to do that, we are going to add .. to our links, and that will make it appropriate for our client pages. And then once we fully correct the navigation for one of the client pages, then we can easily copy this code into the rest of the client pages so that it's correct for all the pages. But we want to do it on one page first and make sure it's correct before we take the time to copy it into other pages, because that'll create more work if we have to correct it on all the individual client pages. So make sure you get it right on the first page, and then that's when you transfer the code to the rest of the pages. So we're just looking at this other client page here just to make sure that we're going to put in the right link. So we see that it's index. We have to put .. index.html / and then the section. So that basically tells the browser to go out of the folder, find the index.html page, but not only go to the index.html page, but depending on which link we click, we want to go to a particular section of the page. So we're going to correct this, make sure it's correct by comparing it to this other client page to make sure the links are the same. And once we have everything corrected, we should do a test to make sure that it's going to the right page. And once we know that it is going to the right page, then we can go back and adapt the code to the rest of the pages. So now we are starting to add this new code for the navigation to another client page. And then the other issue is adding a main landmark to help assistive devices understand where the primary content of the page is located on our code page. So now we're going to open up all the client pages that we have to adjust with this new navigation. And again, we are working live in our FTP, so the changes that we make here in our code editor will change live on the website. So that's why we want to make sure that the changes we are making are correct. So the first thing we're going to do in all the other pages is correct the fact that we never declared a language on our client pages, because this again is a very easy fix. We can do it quickly. We'll do that first. So you can see, even though that you have to change a lot of pages on our website in order to make these accessibility changes, it can be a fast process as long as you're very organized about how you're going about to change the accessibility errors. Just, go in order, make the changes in all the pages that need to have the change first, and then move on to the next thing. That way you won't miss one page with an error that you were supposed to fix. So this kind of thing can be tedious, but we can, make it work quickly and make our errors fixed and make our pages accessible. And we noticed that there was an error with the penciler page when we transferred the code over. So somehow the code got erased, and so we're going to have to fix that entire page. So we'll bring in the penciler page from the original site and copy that code over. So now that we've made the changes to our code, we're going to go back and test and make sure all the pages links work. And I'll be going through that in the meantime until the next episode, where we will continue to correct the code by adding the ARIA labels to section 2 and also by fixing our OWL code. Presented by Designers Learn Code.